when the state, like the country, the India involves in shaping the behavior of the individual. So that's a very clearly that's a process where we we attempt to instill certain desired social values, social skills in individual, and thereby that individual become social. That individual's behavior becomes socially acceptable, right? So that is what uh, socialization, and that's a process, as rightly Madhav told, that that's a process, continuous process. It doesn't stop at any point of time, right? It is a continuous process. It starts, of course, at the since child takes birth in a small unit called family, then it like it takes and or it ends at death only, right? So that's a continuous process, socialization. So precisely, socialization is a process through which we attempt to instill much required social values, or the social values we need in our society, which helps in the functioning of society. So that attempts and that kind of the sets of the values and like values and skills we attempt to introduce, and we attempt to conform, reaffirm, and promote and reach in a constant process is what is known as socialization, right? Okay, and therefore we'll be talking about like agencies of socialization later on, right? Where I just had given you an outline for that, how family involves, how peer groups involves there, how school is involved there, how mass media also plays a very constructive role in shaping the individual behavior we'll be talking about. But before that, we should be talking about a little bit on theories of socialization. It's not that what we are talking about as a process for an individual to like in terms of what we call uh, socializing an individual is not something that is uh, all the time, that is a kind of haphazard uh, attempts, or like sporadic attempts. We have like plenty of uh, theories existing till this, right? And some of them are very popular and widely recognized theories. We have called Cooley's theories, otherwise known as looking glass self theory. Then we have Mead's theory on socialization. Then we have Sigmund Freud's theory of socialization. Right now, that what we tell, what you do, also agree often that that's a process, and that is an universal phenomenon. Yeah. That is not restricted to your family or my family or your society or my society. That's an universal phenomenon, and that is why probably we have very like widely recognized theories like Cooley's, a sociologist who proposes looking glass self theory to understand socialization. Actually, what is socialization to understand? So, what is theory? Actually, theory is a set of principles, a set of statements which like takes towards to understand the basis behind a phenomenon, the basis behind an existence, the basis behind a truth, right? So Cooley's firmly believes that the way we behave in our society, or why we look for socialization, what is the need of socialization, what is the necessity of socialization. To understand that socialization and the very process, Cooley looks at Cooley has attempted to understand in the form of imagination, human imagination, right? Or like men's imaginations, how an individual imagines about oneself, how an individual understands oneself. How do you understand yourself? How do you identify yourself? So coolies basically uh, try to understand that question, those questions, right? Imagination. What do you imagine? How do you imagine? When do you imagine? Right. So when I imagine myself, about myself, that is myself, right? Self imagination. So we do not imagine exclusively keeping the other things besides us or behind us away. We always look at ourselves with others. We do not find ourselves an exclusive identity. Our identities is what is identified by others, right? So that is why he has left us a very popular term, looking glass self. When you go to mirror and look yourself, you find your picture as like if you see yourself here, and you probably ask, who are you actually? Who are you? So there, that you again, you like close your eye and keep thinking that who are you actually? Are you alone there? No, actually, you are not alone there. There are um, other social agents, other social like elements, other social factors, other political factors, other economic factors uh, behind you, besides you, right? So uh, therefore what you are is is a matter of imagination. It's a matter of imagination. One can like identify oneself as what, an ordinary man. One can identify oneself as a very superman. One can identify oneself as a like fantastic man. So that depends upon you, how far you can go, how far your mind can move, how far you can understand the situations around you. So that determines your identity, right? And that again, like that contributes, that theory contribute, Kulis theory, in that sense, looking glass self theory or imagination theory helps in understanding socialization, right? Now how do you look at yourself? uh, you look at yourself probably that yes, I'm a growing man. I am a living individual. I'm a living member in the society. I'm a respected member in the society. I wish more and more social recognition. I wish more and more like it kind of enriched life. So that those are your wishes, and those wishes actually give you an identity. How? So that is why you go for what? You go for putting efforts to establish or re-establish your identity, or to like acquire your identity. You go for education, you go for economic activity, you go for politics, you go for different like possibilities that you around you, that you can acquire, you can have those to establish your identity, right? So likewise, that that's a very clear fact that each individual in our society would like to live as a like respect respected individual, right? So they are therefore like to acquire that status or to acquire that identity, what an individual requires, it requires some sorts of like avenues or some sort of like resources for that. So we look for resources, we look for and to get those resources we put our all possible efforts, right? And there we try to establish ourselves, our identity. We try to prove our identity, right? And that is not exception to you or me. That is a very universal phenomenon. That is wherever there is a normalcy, wherever there is a normal society, right? Everybody looks for one's own identity. Everybody looks for establishing, re-establishing oneself, right? So that's a very common phenomena, universal phenomena. Okay, so that is what socialization. That is what also. So your imagination, your your nature of engagement in establishing your identity or like acquiring your identity or creating a kind of uh, identity or like gaining recognitions around you, that is what, that is not something like uh, exclusive or something automatic, because that we need, that an individual needs without exception, right? So therefore uh, that very nature of imagination, very nature of dreaming, the very nature of putting efforts to materialize one's own dream is what, and like the people around you, those who also help you extend their all possible supports in recognizing or like in establishing your own identity, and like in creating your identity eventually, whatever like you get in the form of a position, in the form of a status. So the entire process is what we call socialization in very broader sense. That is how police look at in the very precise term, looking glass self or imaginary self, right? I'm taking so much of time. Then next important theory is Mead's theory on socialization. Mead's uh, gives a propositions against which is not exclusively or which is not independent to Kuli's theory. Meets beliefs in arts. Meets MEADs meets beliefs in actions, human actions, which is which is an undeniable fact. Human behaves, human acts, and why human behaves, why human has to behave. It has biological behavior, it has social behavior, it has economic behavior, it has like political behavior. If you like categorically try to understand human behavior, largely we have this like biological behavior, like you have like like attribute called hunger. You feel hungry, you feel thirst, you uh, feel like having a kind of biological gratification. So that is something reflected is in each and every individual, right? And since that is an undeniable fact, that is erection, biological behavior, or your social behavior, or like um, our political behavior. We behave according to our needs, according to our circumstances, right? Then and which is quite natural, taking birth in society, taking birth in like and on earth, everybody like behave to survive, either survive or to like to live for some time at least, behaves. So there is always a purpose, there is always an intention behind our behavior, maybe negative, maybe positive, maybe constructive, maybe destructive, but we do behave. That's a very natural phenomenon. So since we behave, and that is what we that is quite natural, quite uh, something which is an undeniable fact, then that has to be regulated, that has to be given shape, that has to be uh, taken care of by the experienced people, or by the active agencies, by the uh, active process of our society where we live, where an individual lives. So that your behavior, when it is regulated, when your action is regulated, or when your actions are regulated uh, by some forces, internal forces or external forces, internal maybe your family members, or external maybe the state mechanisms like police personnel, civil police, or might be court of justice. Those are the state mechanisms where this they are involved, they are in regulating your behavior, right? So primarily what is happening there, that is what you are constantly, you are being socialized there, you have been put under a pressure to behave in a manner that is accepted by, or that is that is that is intended by the others, right? So that is also is there in the very nature of socialization. We do have like mechanisms at the micro level, at the meso level, at the macro level as well, which actually regulate in some form our behavior to take a shape, some shape, right? Which is actually expected by them only, those who regulate. Maybe your parents, maybe your grandparents, maybe your closest society members, maybe your teachers. So that is why I also took the name of maybe the like law enforcing agency, like police department, maybe the court machineries, maybe, right? So again, so means in that sense, the socialization. Uh, yes, there are bases of socialization. What are the bases? These behaviors. Since we behave in a very uh, uninterrupted manner, like one has to behave if one has to live. If you are, you wish to live, you have to behave, otherwise you can't live, right? Since that is quite natural, quite that's an undeniable fact. So there are, these are the basis. Now as we expect the kind of like individual, so our behavior should not like disturbs the lives of others, should not like interfere in the life of others. So definitely we look for some mechanism, some like established this kind of uh, principles which help us in like socializing socializing us socializing an individual. So that is where Kulis looks at actions. uh, since actions are undeniable fact, that we require uh, we require kind of check and balance systems. Therefore, that process is that the very process of checks and balance system is called socialization. Otherwise, right? So that is there. Then again, important. That's a very important theories of socialization that established by proposed by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud proposes that our behavior basically is guided by three major forces, three major contributing forces. That is our biological force, that is our psychological force. Biological is the first, or secondly, that is our psychological force, and third is our social force. Right. So why you behave so? Basically, there are three major forces influencing your behavior. Those are biological, psychological, and social. That influence, those influence your behavior, how you are. So again, putting in like that our behavior or human mind. Uh, uh, he has like proposed psychoanalysis theory, like analysis of mind, psychoanalysis. I mean, psychoanalysis means psychoanalysis, analysis of the mind, right? So he puts the mind in like in three spheres, like id, ego, and superego. Id, ego, and super ego, right? Uh, Conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. Otherwise, the superego is treated with uh, conscious state of mind. Then our like ego is treated with like uh, subconscious. It is sorry, that superego is treated with conscious state of mind, and ego is treated with the subconscious state of mind, and the id is treated with it is equally found with or identified with the like unconscious state of mind. So whatever may be our state of mind, that is our unconscious. I could have pictorially present, but since I haven't prepared a kind of PPT, I cannot share with you. But just one can mind that try to understand that, like, he looks at our state of mind in terms of uh, like id, ego, and superego. Superego is what treated or identify with with the conscious state of mind. Then ego is identified with the subconscious state of mind, and the like unconscious state of mind is identified with the it. So whatever may be the state of minds, right, those are primarily, or those are mostly influenced by our biological factors, our psychological factors, and our social factors. So our mind, which is and that mind, the state of mind, or the way we like understand situation, that actually takes us towards an action. So our behavior is finally what? It is an outcome of these three active forces. Our behavior is what? Our behavior is an outcome. Is a product, or product of these three major uh, forces, biological forces, psych, our psychological forces, and social forces. Right. So, so how it contributes to socialization theory? That is important to understand. How does it contributes to socialization theory? We understand that, okay, it is a stage like a child behaves very at the very infant stage. How does a child behave? It's in a very innocent manner. Child doesn't understand things. Child doesn't or child cannot like operate things according to what the child's needs or child's wishes. But that's a need. Child behaves. Child plays with toys. Child plays with you. Child plays with the things or goods around him or her, but not in a proper manner. Not in a proper manner. But that is a fact. That is a like the child behaves. Child like operates things around in a very improper manner that you do not like. You always intervene there, always interfere there. No, this is how you are supposed to okay, suppose there is fire. Child doesn't understand that is fire and that is going to harm the child, isn't it? But that's a kind of what a stage that is an infant on not much experience of like live realities. So child simply goes and try to grab the fire, the burning fire. That is his or her interest actually attracts. That psychological. The psyche or like psychological attributes is working there. Force is working there that attracts a flame when it is burning. A candle is burning. A child that attracts a child. That's psychological. This stage is what child doesn't understand at a very early stage. But again, that burning candle attracts. That both like psyche is involved there. That uh, biological compositions that getting attracted towards particularly to objects and more on living organisms is biological. That's it. That is biological biological attributes. And then there is a desires which is psychological, so that burning flame does not like it looks attractive, and that is why it gets, child gets attracted toward the burning flame, right? So psychology, this psychological factors is working here. So what was my point is that is, and then third one is the social factors. How social? Now you are interfering there. You are intervening. No, that is going to burn you. That is going to harm you. So you simply come in rescue of that child. No, you say there, no, that is something is going to harm you. You come in rescue of that child. So that's a sociological intervention. So gradually child learns that how to behave with the burning flame, how to behave with fire, right? So that is how Freud has actually analyzed the entire situation with this biological attributes, psychological attributes, and sociological attributes, and finally he has been identified with that socialization theory. One of his contribution is more of towards socializing. So like since we understand this is what something quite natural for every individual, and therefore we need a kind of uh, psychological intervention or like social interventions, right? And then very process of the fulfilling needs of by an individual uh, through a constantly guided process by different like organized mechanisms or by different unorganized mechanisms around you is again what like qualifies to become as a theory of socialization, right? Psychoanalysis theory of socialization. Okay, now we'll move forward. And anything you'd like to ask me, if I can clarify you on this? It is humid, if not hot, in my room where I am sitting. Anyway, you may add something, or if you have any doubt or would like to add something, you can. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
I need some feedback, otherwise it looks like I'm becoming monotonous. I'm talking to myself only. It should not so happen. Okay. So Ganesham, anything you would like to tell or add? Anyone can like, please give me some sort of feedback or inputs so that it would be a bit interesting for all of us.
No, sir, continue.
So yes, Shubhasri,
Yes, sir.
हाँ किसी पचारिबो?
No, sir.
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, let's then move forward. Then we have this. We have three. We talked about three major theories of socialization. Then we have agencies of socialization. Agencies of very quite. You all are familiar. The agencies of socializations. Now, who takes the responsibility of socialization? For like youngest one, maybe your brothers, maybe your sisters, you take the responsibility of socialization, right? But for that purpose, we have some identified agencies of socialization categorically: family, peer group, school, mass media. These days, very it plays very uh, big role in socializing process. Now, family. Do you believe that family uh, help us in socialization?
Yes, sir.
What does family do? Family कौन करे?
Family is the backbone of our life, and family first our starting socialization starts from family. So
Exactly.
that's why mother first start uh, uh, first talking towards talking, and we first know our languages and behaviors, and towards
Manners.
our society manners.
Yeah.
All things do bring from our family.
So, counter questions. Do we need at all that?
Sir?
Do we need that kind of socialization from family?
Yes, sir.
What is the need? If we do not get, then what might happen to you?
We did not.
Suppose you do not learn language. Suppose you do not like or you do not know how to
Yes.
talk to other, how
There's
to.
so many problems, and
Yes.
we have no knowledge about languages and how to behave in society and
Uh,
our culture. Many problems arrives at if we know our family society. If
if you do
not
not know how to talk, how to like negotiate, how to bargain, like how to compromise in
yes,
situations or in the time of need. So that creates difficulty for you. So family or the primary unit of socialization there actually that's makes an individual, that child, or helps that child, uh, or like helps the child in what forms, like in the form of developing some sort of like communicable language, or some sort of like accept, like kind of acceptable behaviors, right? So that we get from our family, a child gets from one's own family, isn't it? And that helps a lot an individual in adapting in other situations, in real life situation, when the child keeps fit in practical life, even within the family, even within the family. That's a very essential condition. Otherwise, you might be get rejected by other members of your family, isn't it? If you behave like a mad, which is not accepted by, or which is not acceptable by others, so you might develop a sense of what? Sense of isolation, sense of like rejection, a sense of on social. You are not a social. You cannot be like considered as a social. So that is why that's a very much essential condition. What? Like having social values or social skills, that family and that process plays a uh, very fundamental roles at the beginning of social life of an individual, but for an individual, isn't it? Fundamental or primary role in socializations is played by family. So, without any doubt, family in that sense is an agency of socialization. Agency in the sense, agency has again a concept like agency. Family has its own composition. Family is constituted with few members. It has its own like structure where we see sort of relationship among the family members. We see sort of like uh, sort of principles, sort of values, respected values, sort of constantly like of fractized values we see in that agency, in that family, and that is why it takes the shape, take the form of agency. Otherwise, it cannot. Right. So, families family does qualify for all this. Um, it does, since it has all those like components, and then it plays a very primary or fundamental roles in shaping the behavior of an individual. It's called as an agency of socialization. Then we have peer group. How do you believe in that your peer group too can be considered as like agency? Your peer group means maybe the friend circle where you live, with whom you actually live, with whom you spend most of your time. Peer group. Yes.
Children are peer groups, sir.
Yes, no, exactly. I'm telling about the situation, this the structure. You like peer means for you, your friends, your like close close
Close
people.
colleagues and friends,
Yes, close
school
people.
friends.
Yes, fellows, where actually most of the time you spend with whom actually most of the time you spend, right? So how do they help in socialization process? Do you believe that peer play some role in,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So I just want to add,
yes,
citing an example.
Madhave, yes.
So, so if I see that my friend is got appreciated by doing such kind of work by others in a society, so I would like to do the same kind of work and would like to got that kind of appreciation from the members. So here, uh, peer groups works as an agency because I do my work, but in addition to that I do copy others, I do follow others behavior pattern to get appreciated by the society. So here, peer group also works as an agency.
Right. Exactly. Yes, and any like Ganasam was telling something.
No, sir.
Right. No, where you live, where as I told you, where you like spend most of your time, they they get ample opportunity to understand you. How do you act or how do you behave? How you're supposed to behave, or where is the scope of like doing better, doing or behaving in a better way, in a better manner. So since they are the very close observer, they are very they live in proximity to you, close proximity to you all the times, or most of the times. They understand better you, and they like uh, being peers. They play a very kind of vigilant, a kind of constructive role in one's individual life. If anywhere you deviate, or in negative sense or in positive sense, in anywhere you do something good, as Madhav added that if you do something good, then you get appreciation from your friends, from your group members, which actually forms a society. So that the very nature of getting feedback and getting motivated by there and further like upholding that behavior or enriching one's own behavior, right, is what we call also socialization, which is in a like big way one could say that is regulated by peers. Right. If you if you commit a crime somewhere, and it is it is it is found by, or it is caught by your peers, right? And then they they wish to, or they wanted to like remind you that what you are doing is not good. That's a crime. That's a crime. Now you justify, the group members justify how it is a crime, where I am wrong, or how my behavior is wrong, how my act is wrong, how my act has given a like given a kind of status of a crime. How? So somewhere they help you to like uh, behave in a manner that what the society expect, the group aspect. The group means the representation of society. The peer means the representation of society. And if like that peer group itself is what? The group itself is criminals, constituted by criminals. You cannot expect like a socially acceptable behavior there, right? So that peer groups, which is actually ideally has to be as like has to be a socially representative group where actually we can expect a socially desirable behavior, socially uh, like cherished behaviors, right? So in that sense, peer group too plays a very important role, and that is why it takes the position of agency of socialization, since it gives capacity to bring necessary changes in an individual of one's own identified group in a desirable direction. That is why that peer group has been given with the status of an agency. So in the process of like socialization as a kind of constant process, peer peer groups plays a very constructive role, right? Okay. Next is school. School is an agency of socialization. I believe that all of you uh, agree with the fact that school is what undoubtedly as an agency of socialization, isn't it? No doubt. That's a secondary. It is called a secondary agency of socialization, and like family is called as uh, uh, primary primary platform of socialization. As school is called as a secondary platform of socialization, and likewise peer group is what we call also secondary platform or informal platform of socialization. Informal, more of informal, but school is what formal or secondary platform for socialization. So what that is, I don't think you require explanation or description that how school plays an agency, a role of an agency for socialization of an individual. It educates. School educates. School introduces formal set of education, formal like education to an individual. But the very basis of introducing education, the very nature of introducing education to an individual by the school is what? Socialization. The basis, what we call that is pedagogy, right? Now, like first of all, you should think about the composition of school, with whom school is composed of or constituted with. Member of society, ultimately members of society. There is again a relationship, teachers, students, and other staffs. And that is again, that school is run by or is regulated by certain established, certain like uh, uh, certain norms, certain principles, right? And ultimately, what does it do? It educates our individual or our people and that the very nature of education or very nature of uh, learning in school like platform or schooling itself is what schooling means what that is like enriching social behaviors or like developing social values, reaffirming social values, or like transforming social values. What we expect today or what we'll be needing tomorrow or in future. That what exactly school attempt to introduce. That what school attempts to practice. School attempts to materialize in an individual, right? And that is what we call the very process of school in providing education or in developing uh, necessary social values and skills is what we call socialization. And right in that sense, school is what uh, a formal or secondary agency of socialization after family or peer groups. That's an agency. Then we have another very active agencies of socialization, that is mass media. Do you believe that mass media does also plays some sort of role in shaping the behavior of yourself, shaping the behavior of an individual, or particularly in terms of socialization or mass media?
Yes, sir. It is the most important also.
Yes.
Like, uh, uh, yes, sir. Like everyday news and everyday what happened, we know through the mass media. It is the most important also. Comparison to our family, to our group and school also.
May I know who are you? Yes,
Subhatri.
Shubhashri. Shubhashri Behra.
Yes,
Shubhashri,
sir.
uh, you you tell us about your gain from mass media. What you have learned from mass media.
First things, mass media is the great platform to know everyday what happening, everyday political news and game news and everything we know through the mass media. So it is the also most important platform to develop socialization.
Social ethic, huh?
I
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, anything you would like to, anyone would like to reflect on that, how mass media is an agency of socialization.
Yes, sir. Mass media is the very crucial part of our socialization, and it is day-to-day life, which is some newses and daily basis provides some newses and some important rules, facts, some informations regarding to our life, and also historical events and sir, it is very important to our socialization, so that it's very need to our society, to that mass media role is a very important to all of our.
Uh, let's take an example of a child. A child of a tender age. What a child follows from what a child follows from that mass media, like let's say electronic media, television. Fine, electronic media as mass media. What a child follows from there?
Sir,
You might
nowadays,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Ah,
Nowadays, a child follows from even that mobile. She can search and on um, place on YouTube also search many things, and on Google search also some informations regarding that, and also play some games. And see every news is also she find all that events, and can get a child also on mass media. And
right.
also his day-to-day life is already so TV, and this is on radio, and sometimes so on cinema also gain knowledge and about our society and culture, all details, sir.
Right, exactly. So, likewise, other agencies, mass media, like plays a very powerful role in shaping the behavior of child. Not only child, like uh, age group, like of you, or like it can also shape mind behavior, right? Uh, like child's learns language from mass media. Child learns how to like behave with the fellow beings in our society. When child is watching, suppose say that is there is a very popular cartoon is coming called Peppa Pig. Have you ever come across with a cartoon? It's called Peppa Pig.
No, sir.
Peppa Pig. That's a cartoon that comes in that's casted in Nick Junior. There is a channel called Nick Junior where it comes. It's called that name is Peppa Pig. Where actually uh, two three family they how they live together. That has been shown there in that episode or in that program, right? So they are actually how they communicate to each other, how they negotiate with the needs and wishes of each other, then how they behave with the physical environment around oneself. Uh, so that has been uh, pictorially well presented there. And I have observed in my child as well. So that is why I'm citing that example. And also you can read like work of uh, this Jan Piaget, cognitive development, and also like the work of that is um, what is that? I mean the work of this Sigmund Freud, and that work of social theory by Ventura, right? So they uh, like child interacts with the given things, with the given situation. So when it watches, or when child watches, keep watching a program or something that is going on in a very active form, in due process, child learns many things. Right, child learns language, child learns social like etiquette, child learns that the proper manner of behaving with the physical environment. Like if you talk about uh, like water pollution or washing hands or what to eat, how to eat, when to eat, and like how to sleep, right? So these are what very, basic things that one can learn from mass media. Be it, especially for at the tender age, we socialize our children with the help of electronic media, like you are telling smartphone or cell phone, or televisions programs, televisions, or like computer systems. You can socialize, but like at the more matured age, when you become more experienced, at that time we take opportunities of different mass media, like print media, electronic media, right? Then mostly we then with those help we get access to different like mass media, and that helps, like someone of you were telling that, okay, we get exposure to a lot of informations, lot of information we get, or we get opportunity to get um, uh, knowledge, exposure to knowledge, and that helps us in doing some informed practices in our life. So what is that informed practices or informed way of behaving? That is what socialization. Our informed way of behavior, informed way of practices. Besides language things or values things, is what we call socialization process, right? Now today there is a what the problems like corona invasion, or the like infection of the spread of the virus corona, as like where we are informing ourselves, or where, through this help of mass media, we are getting exposure to different kinds of knowledge, or we are getting different information from different sources about what? About the virus, about how to deal with the virus, how to deal with the difficult situations, and that information, that knowledge, helping you it, helping you in behaving in a particular manner, or probably because of that information, because of the knowledge, because of that knowledge that you have acquired, or you have taken from a source called mass media, you are behaving in a manner, right? Socially acceptable manner. Now, what is that behavior? What is the social behavior expected from you? You are expected to put mask, covered masks, covering your nose, mouth, right? While going to a public place. That is a kind of expected behavior you are supposed to exhibit in public space, in public places. So that is not that by force you are doing. Probably some of you might be doing forcefully, but then the fact is that if I am a carrier, or if some other like are infected around me, and there is a very high possibility that they might they might infect me through this like entries like mouth or nose. So if I am wearing, or if I wear a like uh, protective mask, that chance or getting chance of infection might be minimized to a greater extent, right? So that's again while like doing that practices or respecting that practices or and putting that in practice in one's own life is what an expected behavior. So again, social, that is what we call mass media. They are also playing some kind of constructive role in terms of shaping your behavior, isn't it? So many things one can talk about the role of mass media as an agency of education, right? Then, okay, anything anyone would like to add or like would like to keep, you can, on this like agencies of socialization, family, peer group, school, and mass media. No one. Okay. Then next unit is our education and social structure, social stratification. That is unit second, and social mobility. Social structure, education and social structure. What is social structure? You mean? What do you mean by social structure? Just we are talking about. What do you mean by social structure? Like we have a physical structure of a tree, we have a physical structure of a house, we have a physical structure of a wild animal or bird. Likewise, we have the social structure. We have different social structures. What are those like social structures? Like, okay, yes, anyone, please come up. What do you mean by social structure? Yes, Ganashyam ji, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Social structure पहले कौन बुझे?
सोशल स्ट्रक्चर ने सोशल बैकग्राउंड को नहीं कि हमें जहाँ सोशलिटी जहाँ भी देखुचंदी तो सेटा होच हमर स्ट्रक्चर जोटा कि हमरो माने फील्ड हो किबा हमरो हाउस नि ट्रीज हो किबा प्लेग्राउंड हो जहाँ भी जहाँ हम माने सोशली जहाँ भी हमें देखुचंदी सेटा होच हमरो सोशल स्ट्रक्चर इवन तो जहाँ भी हमें जो गाड़ी हो कि जहाँ भी हम सोशली माने जहाँ भी हम सब देखुचंदी हम माने फ्री सर्कल रे तो जहाँ भी सब देखुचंदी सेटा हम सब स्ट्रक्चर.
Yes, anyone, please, Madhava.
Such structure means a shape. So by a social structure, if I take example of a town or a block, like I could say that there are so many members in a family, and with so many families there is a village, and with so many villages there is a block, like that. So this is the structure. If this is a society, if India is a society, there are different states, and within those states there are different districts, different villages, different families. So this is the structure. This is Indian social structure, we can say.
Okay. Okay.
Am I right, sir?
Yeah. So let me clear you. You're right, Ganashyam and Madhava. Like Madhava is mixing picture like political and social structure. Political structure, he started talking about block, district. These are all political structure, political mechanism. But yes, like Ganashyam as or Madhava himself was telling that, like, okay, we have family. No, that's a social structure. That's the first social structure. Family. We have like village. That's a social structure. We have like religion. That's a social structure. Beyond that, we have a caste. We have community. We have class. In sociology, these are termed as social structure, like family, caste, your community, religion. Okay, in sociology these are termed as social structure. Even class, like we have a very like uh, uh, it's kind of phenomena like lower class, middle class, upper class, isn't it? You must have come across with those terms. These are I mean sociologically justified terms, right? Uh, Family is a structure, social structure that's a part of society. That family itself constitutes a whole structure, but again that is a part of society, right? But then that is a structure. That is a structure. Why it is it is structure or it is a social structure? Because simply it 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 is composed of identified members, definite members. It is composed of definite beliefs, definite customs, and that is why it is a structures. There is also a definite relationship. There is an understandable relationship within the family, and that is visible. That is visible. That is something understandable. The members are understandable. The relationship is understandable. The nature of the nature of behavior, the nature of very existence of that family is understandable, and that is why that is it's called as structure, social structure. Likewise, caste, community, religion, class, like lower class, middle class, or upper class. Like each one of them is identified by its own, first of all, by its own social member, social element, that is a member. So each of them is identified the members, definite members. Then they are identified by their practices. They are identified by their purpose of their structure. There is a purpose of family. There is a purpose of a community. There is a purpose of a caste. There is a purpose of a religion. There is a purpose of a class. Right? So each of them is identified by a definite members, by definite norms, by definite practices, by definite purposes. So when it is there, we label them as social structures. Very simple, right? Now here there is an attempt to understand this structure, keeping education as a kind of elements, a kind of elements in each and every structure. Now, what sort of relationship is there in between education and family? What sort of relationship is there? What sort of relationship is there in between a community and education, or education and community, or education and likewise education and religion, education and class, lower, middle, or upper, right? So this has been has been addressed in this unit. I'm not going to give you a thorough description of that because it will be taking a longer time. And very simple things you can understand by consulting your text, prescribed text. There is no much like technical things to understand there. Now coming to the other thing, social stratification, there is another subject matter we are supposed to deal with. There is social stratification, right? Education and social stratification. What do you mean social stratification? Like social stratification, we have our society is categorically stratified, right? Largely in the name of what? Stratified by our our power, our position, our group. So economically, society can be classified like as I was telling you, like a structure like uh, uh, middle, what we say lower class or lower group, middle group or middle class, or like upper class. That is how we classify based on their economic standard, economic status. We classify like uh, lower, middle, and upper, right? Sometimes we also classify like a society in terms of like position and power. We say that is a political class. We say that is a business class. We say that is a like learn or like educative class, or like educated class, learning class. We say sometimes let's say uh, like sporting class, or say those who like sports and events. So we have different kind of classification based on people like interest, people positions, right? Suppose we have a like let's for example say a political class. We have a political class in our society. How do you look at that? You might have like come across with the fact that there are some people in our society, they keep very close interest in politics. And which politics? State politics, not family politics or cheap politics. Let's say state politics. They run after securing a political position or getting elected in their political territory, in their political locality. And you might have observed that, you might have understood, you might have come across with the fact that sometimes it so happens that that is confined to few people. They belong to again further a family, a family, a particular family, particular group of people. We have like political class. One can say, always cite an example of like Odisha. We have example of which Patnaik ji, Naveen Patnaik ji, like from starting from Biju Patnaik, Janki Vallabh Patnaik, then you have Naveen Patnaik. Who else is there? It's a political class. Successively, the members of the family, they have they deliberately or by chance they get the position, that political position and power, and that is why they are identified as political class. They are political people. Our people live around them. People closely connected with them are what we identify them as political class, right? Likewise, we classify our society in terms of business class. Business class, do you believe that we have business class people who keeps interest in business? Which kind of business? Trade and commerce business, not other terms, but trade and business. Those who like keep interest in doing trade and commerce, you might find that they are identified people. They keep interest in that. Like my when I now I'm doing trade and commerce. My successors would be doing the same work, trade and commerce. Then their successor would be engaging in that same trade and commerce kind of work. So what you have that kind of created a kind of class in that society that's called business class. So likewise, we have different social stratification. Society. No, the point is education and social stratification here. Now, how education plays a kind of intermediary role or kind of uh, constructive role therein in that social structure, be it social structure or social stratification or social mobility. There is again another term, that is social mobility, like the particular group of like uh, members, identify members when even an individual being moves from one one particular status to another status, maybe in a progressive way, or in a regressive way. So that very moment of in progressive manner or in regressive manner coming down is what we call social mobility. There again we have two kinds of social mobility, that is vertical and three in fact: vertical, horizontal, and other one is third one is spatial, right? So like in this like social structure, social stratification, social mobility, there is a belief that, and there is also a kind of inclination, a kind of understanding, very clear understanding, that education plays a very constructive role in maintaining status quo, in maintaining the social structure, or in like in maintaining social stratification, or in maintaining social mobility. That is what is given therein uh, in that uh, in that part of your courses, right? Many things you may not have uh, cleared. So you read that text, you will come to know what does that means. But precisely what I told you is that that is the structure or classification, social stratification. As like as I told you, we have different class, like in terms of economic position, economic power, in terms of political position and political power. In other forms, we have been stratified. We have stratified our society. Likewise, social mobility. We have like different kind of social mobilities, which is again determined by education in many ways. So I suggest you to go through that like text. That won't be a difficult like content for you to grasp or to understand. Okay. Then let's move to another unit, that is called education and social change, education and development, education and globalization, education and social change. Again, that's an okay. Social change. Do you see any kind of talmel, any kind of talmel means relationship that you understand? Any kind of relationship between education and social change. Let me first tell what is social. How do you like understand social change? You mean social change? How do you understand social change? How do you look at social change? To whom you say social change? Yes, anyone, please.
Yes, sir, I am Subhasri.
Yes.
Social since day-to-day life, our social development, we feel we are developed. It also practically, and in this region, main field is main get vital role is education. Education is the most important thing to develop our social education, day-to-day life, living style, technology, and many things. So social change is get affected by education. Education is the most important thing, and
No, my
everything
question,
are developed. Yes,
Subhasri, if you
yes, sir.
precisely try to try to understand me or to come to, if we go to other minds, what do you mean by social change? How do you understand it? What is that change, social change? For
So
example,
social change means
decide an example.
our develop ourselves, our society change. Uh, every day to day life, we feel we change ourselves. Every place, like it political, education, and everything, technology, everything should change. So I feel social
You know,
change.
I need a very like concrete example. You may say concrete or a very convincing example of social change. What we can cite, or we can cite today, we can cite, we will be citing in future. That change, social change.
Yes,
For
sir.
example, yes, anyone like not Subhasri, other also can uh, react on this or reflect. What do you mean by social change? Yes,
So
others are there.
I say one example in past time in education place means education not to develop मतलब इतना भी लोग एजुकेशन को मतलब पास्ट लाइफ में लोगों एजुकेशन को नहीं मानते लोग मतलब गर्ल्स लोगों को अलाउ नहीं करते एजुकेशन के लिए तो नाउ वी फील ऑल एजुकेशन नीड टू a rights
Mm.
every everybody should take education
Right, right,
nowadays. So it
right.
is a important example in social change.
Society, good.
Yes, sir.
Exactly, and that's what I was expecting. No, that is a change today we see. Now, today we see there was a time when education was, I mean, getting education or the practice of education was a restricted phenomenon,
Yes, sir.
isn't it? That
Yes,
that
sir.
that was not so common. That was not so crazy. What today we have. Crazy means the popularity that today we have. Now, see, the mode of education we are like adopting. We have set in such a condition that we are connected in a distance mode called through these electronic gadgets. We are connected to each other. For what? No, like the kind of like change we have brought in our society. There was a time when it was a restricted practice. Education was a restricted practice. It was confined to home. It was confined to Gurukul. It was confined to Gurukul. Again, it was confined to, if you see, like the girls were not like the girls' education was not so encouraging, or the participation of girls in education in terms of getting education, or in terms of like um, like like putting one's own resource in terms of uh, functioning of the system of education. We see a kind of what um, um, like equational balance. There is a balance in terms of participation of girls in the system of education, which was not earlier. So now, I mean, when the family members or when society was restricting these girls uh, as members of society in terms of getting education today. But today, I mean, also there might be some kind of restriction, there might be some kind of agitation, but then we are a bit generous, we are a bit what liberal in trying to what ensure education for all. So that's a change. That's a change which was not there. Like even 50 years back, we had not the same condition in terms of participation of the both gender side in education. So itself is what the change. That is what change. And then what Subhasri was telling actually, that education, you may say, eventually education has played uh, I mean, in the context of like participation of girls in education, in education system, the education itself has played a very uh, crucial or very constructive role, where actually what today we see, or the change we see in education is again there the role of education uh, uh, is is quantifiable, or role of education is understandable there, right? No, besides that, social change, like in other terms, the role of education, if you talk about in terms of like the change we see in our society, in terms of our values that we give, in terms of our practices we adapt, in terms of our um, in terms of the the affairs we get engaged, which essentially bring changes in our society. Uh, Education has a greater stake in it, or greater stake in that. Right? Change, social change. Change in terms of like as I was telling you, in terms of our practice. I mean, just Subhasri cited about the participation of girls, or the impression on girls towards education. We have today, we have a situation like where actually girls excel than boys. Girls are doing better than boys. That situation was not there earlier, but today we have that kind of situation. And then the practices today we have, which actually that education plays has played a very constructive role there in bringing social change. So what are those contexts I would like to confirm here? Like social change, like social sense, like the feeling of you know superstition, or the practice of superstition, practice of like untouchability, the practice of the kind of conservative practices we had. Conservative practices means, take for example, uh, okay, Take for example a social practice which is identified by a caste. Say for example, cutting hair. Cutting hair uh, is to be a profession of a barber, isn't it? Barber, a particular caste, particular caste, isn't it? But no, but people, there is a understanding among people. No, it is actually it is not supposed to be a privilege, or it's not supposed to be uh, a kind of hatred act by a particular caste or particular individual identified by the caste or by a class or by a community. Why not by others? So then gradually what we have seen is that gradually other people from other backgrounds, other community, other beliefs, they started doing the same act, that is hair cutting, right? So that kind of mindset, that kind of understanding has actually, that change in mindset, change in understanding has influenced by education itself. Like these days we have like incidents of like intercaste marriage or like inter-religion marriage. Earlier it was like the intercaste marriage was found to be a kind of what it was condemned by uh, people of one's own caste, one's own group, one's own class. It was condemned. Those who like were indulging in such art were kept isolated. Those were like uh, those were punished, or they are punished by their own people. Intercaste marriage or interreligion marriage. But today we see a frequent practice, such kind of practice. That those are the changes. That is a change in society. And actually, where education there is playing a constructive role, no, that can be done, no problem. No, scientifically or socially, there is no like much harm in it. And for that, we have different mechanisms to ensure, like give you security uh, to uh, to do such kind or to engage in such kind of work. There is no problem if something is approaching to you and there is a better possibilities in doing so, then one should go for that, and people are going for that in that hope there are better possibilities, right? And eventually they are getting breakthrough out of it in their choice, in their practice. So that those are the changes we see, right? So education again plays a constructive role in bringing that or inviting those social changes in our society, and that's what we call also development. Otherwise, partially, that's what we also call it also development, education and development, right? Education is identified with, or otherwise, education is understood closely with development, isn't it? Education is understood closely with development, isn't it? Are you there or not?
Yes, sir.
ଆମେ ଶିକ୍ଷାକୁ ବିକାଶ ସହିତ ବା ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ସହିତ ସବୁବେଳେ ଯୋଡୁଛୁ, ବା ସବୁବେଳେ ଆମେ ଯଦି ବିକାଶକୁ ଦେଖିବା ତାହେଲେ ଏଜୁକେସନ ର ସେଠି ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଭୂମିକା ରହିଛି ବା ଗୋଟେ କ'ଣ ସମ୍ପର୍କ ରହିଛି ବୋଲି ଆମେ ବୁଝିପାରୁଛୁ, ଦେଖୁଛୁ, ରାଇଟ୍? For
Yes, sir.
example, development in the form of our in our primary sector, development in our primary sector. Primary means agriculture sector, in the field of agriculture, in the field of biotechnology, in the field of space science, in the field of like in the field of medical science. We see we have seen, we have been witnessing a lot of development, be it primary sector, be it service sector, or that is your secondary, that is industrial sector, where development is taking place. Primarily, the role of education is there, something which is that is a that is a very clear uh, uh, understanding. I mean, we see a very clear relationship in between education and those development in those sectors, primary, secondary, or tertiary, right? Along with those like quantifiable development in primary sector, that is agriculture sector, or in secondary sector, that is industrial sector, or that is your tertiary sector, that is your um, service sector. We see development in those identified, categorically identified sector. At the same time, a great uh, development we do also witness within the individual, within the individual, because of that education, within the group of individual, isn't it? That is what development. What you were like uh, 10 years back, what you were 15 years back without formal education, without knowledge base, you are different today because of that exposure to formal education, because of the basis of knowledge you have. You are different. You are considered as a developed being, isn't it? Now we do not like go for the food items which actually uh, uh, are which actually works like slow poison for your body. You do not go for that. You do not subscribe for that, those kind of food practices. So what you are doing when you are unsubscribing, when you are like keeping yourself away from those things which are actually harmful to you, or which restrict the opportunities in your life, that like your consent, your knowledge base, your, I mean, the information that helping you to keeping yourself away from those kind of practices, and by doing so you are like ensuring a better life possibilities for you, right? So in that way, it does help. It like it plays a very constructive roles in terms of advancement in science and technology, as well as in like in our society and in general, and in individual in particular, right? So thank you very much um, for being with me, for being with us in this platform, in this program. And I hope you'd be getting more a clear picture once you consult your text prescribed to you, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's finish today. We are very close to our given time, that is 7 to 9 p.m., right? We'll again meet day after tomorrow at the same time, the time that is 7 to 9 p.m. I wish many more participation. You like share with your friends on about today's meeting. I'll be happy to again meet you day after tomorrow. Thank you very much all for being with me.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Hi. Hello. Stepped off.